Hello, here's Frank Kaufmann, president of the Settlement Project. Today is the 23rd of November. A couple of things happened over the weekend, which are severe blows to those who are hopeful that the president will be able to establish that voter fraud took place, that the election was stolen. A movement of Trump supporters that seek his reelection go under the banner "Stop the Steal." There have been a number of big rallies, including a massive rally in D.C. last weekend, a weekend ago, about 10 days ago, a Stop the Steal rally that had, I think, tens of thousands of people. It was not at all reported in censorship media. And the other thing that was not reported from that rally is that in the wee hours when there were a few stragglers left from that rally, many were brutally attacked, physically attacked. One person knocked unconscious to the street. Parents with small children crying were attacked. Elderly were attacked and pushed to the street by organized opposition to Trump that gathered in the wee hours, in the later evening hours after the rally had dispersed. That also was not covered. But that's the movement of people who would like to see the Trump challenge go all the way to the courts, because this group of people believe that the election was riddled with fraud and malfeasance, and and so that movement continues. On Thursday, the 19th, there was a 90-minute press conference with the Trump legal team that included as one of its presenters, Sidney Powell, whose focus is on Dominion servers, Smartmatic, and various election software that she claims altered the votes in real time. She also has part of her platform describing that a lot of the vote counting was done overseas, particularly in Germany, possibly in Barcelona and elsewhere. She describes the development of that voting software as originating in the Chavez government, and she claims also that it was used by the U.S. CIA and others to manipulate votes internationally, especially the Philippines. So this was Powell's angle. The other members of the Trump legal team, Giuliani, Ellis, and others, are pursuing a more conventional course, identifying large stacks of ballots coming in the middle of the night without the legal responsibility to have ballot observers from both parties present while these votes are being counted. Mayor Giuliani described things called triple counting, in which a single ballot will be entered into the voting machine 3 times successively. Other such things as single vote ballots, so that there were, according to him, thousands or tens of thousands of ballots with only just the Biden circle blacked, some of it blacked perfectly. There was a number of ballots with perfect vote blacks and 0 down ticket votes. So that's the legal angle or legal pursuit of the president's current team. But when they gave their press conference last week, they presented both the Powell's challenge to the manipulation of software, a tech issue, as well as the other challenge that had to do with ballot issues, ballot dumping, ballot harvesting, intimidation of observers, and the like. Over the weekend, there was a public announcement of a split. They removed Powell from the ticket, and this was seen as a major blow to the Trump effort to pursue his reelection in the courts under the claim that he, in fact, did win and that fraud accounted for the claim that Biden won. Part of the problem is that information about the challenges, of course, are censored by media committed to censorship, which includes legacy corporate media and also the big tech platforms that abuse Section 230 privileges. So, but this particular podcast is about a very significant turn of events in the coverage of the 2020 elections, and that is that there are a handful of media figures and a handful of media organizations that are not part of the censorship media that would do things like prevent important information coming out about the candidates during the campaign, and also fall within the group that various universities and media reckoning organizations have determined that coverage of Trump ranges between 92 and 99% negative throughout the entirety of his presidency. So those media that fall within that category, that's recorded by independent analysts as between 99 and 92, 99% negative, those include, of course, major networks, Twitter, Google, Facebook, and so on and so forth. But there's another section of media that endeavor to be fair and open. They endeavor to report information, and several of them have a conservative hue. They would be willing to cover things like Hunter Biden's laptop, which was concealed from the public by censorship media and censorship tech, and things like that. And this media is an important part of the Trump coalition because it has established itself as reliable. It's not immediately dismissible. The far right, hard right media, even if it's producing factual data, a lot of it is immediately dismissible. No one from the center, and certainly not from the left, will ever consider it viable. Something like Gateway Pundit or InfoWars and the like. Those are their own category of coverage. They have their own mission and express purpose and responsibility. Everybody knows they will constantly report in support of the president. The only difference between InfoWars and Gateway Pundit and this right-wing group and the New York Times and Atlantic is that somehow people think the New York Times and Atlantic is not like the New York Times and Atlantic is, or Huffington Post or Vox or Axios. They're identical to the Gateway Pundit and InfoWars. They're just on the left, but somehow they enjoy establishment status, and so somehow a similar hard politicized and partisan reporting, CNN, ABC, MSNBC, like 99% negative, that's somehow regarded as establishment information. And identical mirrored groups on the right, like Gateway Pundit or InfoWars, which are identical to like CNN, just identical. Somehow CNN will be playing in the airports. Thank God InfoWars is not being played in the airports, or else you'd those things you put in your ears to sleep, you'd have them in your ears all the time. But today, two major things happened. I already discussed the separation from Powell in my previous podcast, but the very extremely important thing is a number of centrist, reliable papers and figures have closed its doors, stopped its reporting, and are just functioning wholeheartedly and unequivocally with the position that President Biden has been duly elected, fairly elected. They are no longer entertaining or reporting on any challenges to that, even though the challenges are vigorously going forward. A very big paper in this regard is the Washington Examiner. It has been very fair, very rigorous, very responsible. It does not fall afoul of either side, although it's slightly conservative. If there are people that are just plain left and kind of with hands over their ears and whistling and tapping their feet and won't hear anything, then the examiner would probably be considered also unreliable. But any person that is not maniacally kind of just closed would consider that the examiner strives to be in the center, responsible, and reporting information regardless of where it takes them. That paper is slightly conservative, or some may say a little more than slightly. I think it's slightly, a little more than slightly. That paper today went hardcore, flat out, closed the doors, stopped the information, stopped the report, stopped on a dime, And all reporting is now as though there were never a Trump challenge, as though the elections ended on November 3rd, and that every American kind of lined up, presented their license, wrote down their ballot, had a Republican and a Democrat take a good close look and register it properly, and that Vice President Biden won the election to be president of the United States for the next 4 years. The Washington Examiner, as of this morning, has decided to position itself simply as a paper reporting on the upcoming presidency of quote unquote President-elect Joseph Biden. This is while the Trump campaign is involved in legal challenges to the vote. Okay, so what would make a paper make this editorial decision? It's a serious blow to those who hope for the Trump challenge to have legs and even to possibly succeed when centrist or middle of the road or even conservative individuals or organizations abandon him in the way that the Washington Examiner has. The headlines in the Examiner today, Monday, the 23rd of November, Obama's third term. Biden reveals first cabinet picks. First thing you see on their paper. Avril Haines, deputy of Brennan and Rice, named Biden's future spy chief. Biden names Janet Yellen Treasury Secretary, making her the first woman nominated for the post. So here's a paper that has been traditionally mildly conservative, suddenly presenting itself from top to bottom as though they were absolutely nothing other than every American kind of perfectly and peacefully living in the reality of a Biden presidency with no votes certified, or almost no votes certified, with major swing states just kind of riddled with court proceedings and a number of circuit court judges deciding in the president's favor. But the Washington Examiner has decided to become a paper that just speaks of a Biden presidency as of today, all of a sudden, in a single moment. So this particular fact, together with the Powell split, makes it a rough day for Trump supporters. And I just wanted to speak very briefly on this matter of the media point of it uniquely, because I've already made a statement on the Powell split. The media to me are a little bit like stewardesses or flight attendants were while we were growing up. When we were growing up, everybody, I'm giving away my age good enough. When I was growing up, everybody dressed in a suit or in a dress to fly. Flying was an activity in which you were respectful of your environment, you dressed properly, you behaved properly, and you were treated well. It was a matter of respecting everyone in circumstances where we meet challenges together. You were treated nicely on the planes. Your concerns were considered. And it was only on a plane that you ever saw a flight attendant. They were beautifully dressed, beautifully behaved, beautiful manners, exceptional care, an elegant way of, and there was a certain mystique about them, so that um, they were often kind of objects of romantic fantasies and things like that. In the present time, poor flight attendants are just schlepping around uh, airports like everybody else. All of their mystique, all of their dignity has been stripped of them. They're looking for a place to sit. They're getting overcharged for their hamburgers like everybody else. It's just they no longer appear from out behind the curtain as something special. And for me, the media are the exact same way. It used to be that the media would be those who kind of appeared from out behind the curtain, and you'd pick it up and you could read what was happening. These were the people who knew what was happening. So you'd buy the New York Times, and if you were conservative, you'd buy the New York Post, and if you were liberal, you'd buy the Daily News. And but regardless of the slant of your paper, it was limited to the editorial sections, and more or less papers had the responsibility to present news. And even if you were liberal or conservative, whether I'm a New Yorker, so whether you're the New York Post or the Daily News, people weren't saying that the Daily News was publishing things that aren't true. They were just saying that their editorial positions were left leaning. To me, the media is just like flight attendants. They're just out schlepping among us. They are no more likely to be special in any way about information than a stewardess is likely to be special in any way schlepping through the crowded, backed up airports where, it's just the mystique has dropped. And so the idea that in the day if a newspaper comes out and takes a position on something like a presidential election, this was serious business. But AP called the election while millions of votes were yet to be counted. It's just a complete degeneration of the institution of its function in society. It no longer functions with dignity or in ways that anybody can particularly respect. So, what does it mean when a paper like the Examiner, on a dime, where you cannot find a solitary article reporting on serious challenges of election impropriety in a single day? Basically, it reflects the media making a business decision or editorial decision to chase after its position in the economy of information. It's making a gamble. It's calling it a day. It doesn't want to be painted with the bad smear of, oh, Trump supporters are idiots, Trump supporters are maniacs, Trump supporters are conspiracy theorists, and so on and so forth. All it is just it's a business decision, but in the business of information. And so when you see a paper suddenly in a single day stop all coverage of an important matter that's going on, the accusation of election fraud, and just stop it completely, and then suddenly appear exactly like the New York Times with the pictures of six like John Kerry and Susan Rice. You're suddenly staring at these people in with no tongue in cheek, with no question, with no wonder, with no just President-elect Biden's cabinet selections is it's basically an editorial and more importantly a business decision that we are going to need not to be painted in such a way we're going to get closed out or locked out of information access during a quote unquote Biden presidency. So, my comment in short on matters like this is to basically take the stand or express the opinion that when you see a paper make a shift like this, you're not seeing an added degree of information about the nature of the status of the judicial challenges being leveled by the Trump legal team. You're basically seeing an organization make a business decision, and its business being access to information, and it does so. The issue with the Examiner is particularly poignant and particularly interesting because it stopped on a dime. It changed in a single day. It would seem to me, and I can only guess, that the Powell split, people like Chris Christie saying, "Oh, the Trump legal team is in shambles, it's a national embarrassment," stuff like that, makes a business group and its editorial group say, "Uh-oh, this is a losing battle now. Don't cover this anymore. Get into the place where we will be able to recover. We're not following a maniacal, infantile, temper tantrum cult leader of gun-toting, Bible-clutching, flag-waving people in trucks. We're back in now. Now we're back becoming a news organ of Washington D.C. and New York, and the people who will happily take us out of the madness and chaos of Trump's narcissism or something like that. It's not any evidence of the preponderance of information in any way, because all of us have access to information, no matter how hard the censorship group seeks to block it from us. We can find it by the thousands. So it's not superior information that makes such a decision, but rather it's a gamble. It's when to stop and hitch your horse, to your information-seeking horse, to a status that will, whereby people will talk to you in Washington, D.C., or people will talk to you in Wall Street, and so forth. So this is pure opinion, but it's comment on what has become, what used to be a part of American and world society, in which people would be responsible to communicate verifiable information. It is not that at all. It's not that in the least. So maybe they know something. Maybe it's time to stop. Maybe it's time to join the hue and cry that President Trump, please stop this, and concede, or maybe not. That's its own question. But I think that getting excited to see this paper or that, the one or two papers that actually would report fairly, suddenly look exactly like the Huffington Post. I think that it doesn't necessarily indicate that greater information is it represents greater information. It represents a gamble, like all business entrepreneurs have to take risks. All right, thanks for listening. Talk to you again soon.